welcome our attendees. My question is to Dr. Ronan Glynn, and I want to thank you for all the work that you've been doing on behalf of the Irish people. And helpfully, on the 19th of August, you did a social media video where you outlined where the majority of the 1,200 cases that emerged over the previous 14 days had emerged from. You identified that 360 came from the meat plants, 90 from direct provision, 40 linked to construction, 200 from community transmission, 200 under investigation, 3% from travel-related. My question to you, Dr. Glynn, is how many of them were attributed to sporting activities and how many in particular were attributed to spectators at sporting activities?
So we don't categorise cases specifically related to sporting activities, but a key part of what we do categorise is the proportion of cases that arise as a result of close contact with another confirmed case. And what we'd seen in the days leading up to that in particular was that the average number of contacts of cases who had been involved or attending sporting activities had risen to 9, which was the highest number of close contacts for a given category of case. We have had cases related to matches, albeit a small number, and clusters. But ultimately, and I've been at pains to say this, that whilst one organisation came out and characterised this as a recommendation specifically targeted at it, it was not. We simply sought to decrease congregation in as many settings as possible so that congregation could proceed in the settings that are of a priority, whether that's schools or, for example, our hospital system. And I don't know if you want to come in on this, Professor Nolan.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate, and obviously the whole point of this is to keep us safe and the nation safe, and I appreciate the work you're doing, but I just want to get to the facts that your case is based on, or the recommendations are based on. So cinemas can remain open, but those attending an outdoor event, whether it's 50 people, 70 people, socially distanced, are not permitted at the minute. Is there any evidence that those close contacts, that people had contracted the virus as a result of close contact to an infected person who, as a result of being at a football match or a soccer match or any other sporting activities, is there much of an issue there, or is it just been overly cautious?
We have had cases and clusters linked to sporting activities, yes.
How many?
I'm not at liberty to say precisely how many. We've had a number of clusters around the country, a number of cases around the country, linked to not just sporting activities, but other forms of socialisation. We've also had issues in relation to people from different households travelling to and from events and work together. So the set of recommendations was targeted again at decreasing congregation in the round, so that congregation could continue in the areas that are most important, and indeed, and vitally, so that all sport could continue in this country.
I appreciate that, Dr. Glynn, but again, I'm just trying to ascertain the data that backs up a decision like this, because it is a major decision. There is now full restriction on going to your local GA championship match. As I said, regardless of the numbers, we're talking about large open spaces here, regardless if you travel yourself to the match, and do all of the precautions, you are forbidden to do that under the current guidance. And while there may be clusters in relation to sport, we are conscious. If you take the GA, for example, I think about 90,000 people are training every week. There's matches taking place, and in soccer and in other sports as well. So there may be clusters. But in terms of spectators, because that was the decision that was taken, is there evidence to suggest that there has been a concern in relation to that? Because what frustrated a lot of people, as you said, 500 of the 1,200 cases emerged from direct provision and meat plants, yet all sporting spectators were banned from attending matches. And can you confirm to me the recommendation or the guidance that came out from Sporting Ireland that parents or guardians are entitled to attend sporting matches for under-18s as a guardian of their child if their child is playing. Is that the recommendation for NEFIT? And can you elaborate in relation to the guidance there from Sport in Ireland?
I think it's really important. The evidential base is actually strong. If we congregate indoors, the risk of transmission is high amongst adults. If we congregate closely outdoors and don't maintain 2 or more metres physical distance, the risk is moderate to low. The big issue here is that this isn't about spectatorship. This is about congregating in numbers above 15 outdoors, particularly where people freely mix between households. So the very purpose of the recommendation is to allow important things like participation in sport or participation in schooling to continue, because every contact between 2 adults that carries the risk of viral transmission carries the risk of viral transmission. And the whole purpose of these is to prevent indoor congregation and outdoor congregation that fosters mixing between households that would spread the virus between households. So it's not targeted at any activity. It's targeted at those open mixing between households. And you're right, the risk is lower outdoors, but the risk is not negligible outdoors, and it's particularly not negligible where people let their guard down, understandably.
Thank you very much, Professor Nolan. Could I just ask you...
The Sport in Ireland, the underage, it would be important to get clarification.
Dr. Glynn has said before that anything necessary for a safe conduct.
Dr. Glynn, you said that there was evidence of clusters, but you weren't at liberty to provide it. Is there a reason? I mean, if you don't have the evidence to hand, I completely accept that. I mean, you can't have everything to hand. But can you provide that in writing to us?
So I can give some information. There was one outbreak in one club with 22 cases and over 100 contacts. There was another outbreak that...
Something to do with spectators?
A mixture.
Right.
There was another outbreak with 2 positive cases and 72 contacts, but they're big ones. I think the point is being missed here, that what we were seeing all over the country is cases arising as a result of mixing between households. And the intention of the measures, the relatively simple, notwithstanding the widespread commentary
meat plants where they all
last week, was that we decrease congregation in households, because what had happened in meat plants and what had happened in other settings had led to clusters and cases in households. And so these measures are aimed at decreasing mixing between households so that we can stop the virus transmitting and thereby protect the essential parts of our economy and society that we really need to keep functioning, including sporting activity. And just to Deputy Doherty's specific point, yes, I've confirmed previously our recommendations are guidance, and we want to be pragmatic. We understand the importance of sport, and absolutely, if a parent or carer needs to be at a training or match for the purposes of child protection or guardianship, there's no issue whatsoever with that.
Thanks.